Most people know that their job is matching 3%, 4% match. They may also know that Vanguard and Fidelity has the 401k, 403b. But what else is happening after that? Most people don't know. When you hear the stock market is up, you've made money. In the evening, you hear stock market is down, you've lost the same money you made in the morning. It goes up, it goes down. That's how retirement buckets work, but most people don't know. So how do we protect it to make sure that you don't wake up one day and you don't have the money when it's just about time for retirement? Here's what they do. They move the money from a variable bucket to an index bucket. In a variable bucket, you have no control whether you're making money or losing money. It goes up, it goes down. But when you change the bucket, now you have a peace of mind. You only make and make and make. It doesn't go up and down. And every time you put money in an index bucket, such as a fixed index annuity, there is a bonus on day one, anywhere from 10% to 30%. Now imagine that you transfer 100,000, and on day one, you start from 130,000. It avoids probate. Why is that important? I'll tell you more. Now, the average person has their money at the bank, but what does the bank do with the money? They index the money and they compound the money. How does that work? Let me give you an example. $100,000 that you have in a bank account, how much does the bank give you as interest? 0.1%. What that means, 1 year after, the interest you made off of 100,000 is $100, but the bank made 10,000, to which they only gave you 100. Second month, the same happens, the same continues. 40 years after, the bank would have given you $4,000, but the bank made 4.5 million. Yet the principal belongs to you. What if you can skip the banks and do what the banks are doing? That the education will provide. How to make sure your money is working for you, not for the banks. When you look around, how does the average person plan for retirement? Which tax code do they use? 401k, Roth IRA, 403b. How do these buckets grow? It goes up and down. Variable. Now, flip the coin. What tax codes do the elites utilize to plan for retirement? These are their own tax codes. How does it grow? Index. A tax code for the informed and a tax code for everyone else. What else do we do for families? Tax-free accounts. Most people, when they want to grow their money tax-free, they do a Roth. The elites, they do a 7702. What is the difference? That's the education we provide. What else do we do for families? Help families plan early on for their kids to go to college. Most families don't plan, most parents do not plan for their kids going to college. So in the end, they take big loans. And then 20 years after, they're still paying school loans. And then the parents that do something, most of them do a 529, but they at least do a 7702. What's the difference? The difference is in the way the two buckets grow. In the 529, how does it grow? It's variable. In the 7702, it is index, peace of mind. In the 529, you're paying financial advisors regardless of which way, whether you're making money or losing money. In the 7702, there are no financial advisors. That's a bonus. Now, if you think about applying for financial aid, you must declare if you have a 529, because that information is important to say yes or say no to financial aid. But in a 7702, you don't have to. It avoids. That's important. And there are so many reasons why the elites prefer a 7702 over a 529. Flexibility, peace of mind, and guarantees. We'll get to explain more when we meet one-on-one. What else do we do for families? We have a duty to help protect, preserve, and transfer from generation to generation. We see the average person work so hard, but in the end, it's always a struggle. Because when you look around, you see a pattern. It's a pattern where the average person works so hard, and then it's time to transfer, there's nothing to transfer. How do we know that? Over 10,000 people start a GoFundMe every single day. And there are two major reasons for which we see GoFundMes. Two major reasons. A wedding is not one of them. Birthday party is also not one of those reasons. A baby shower is not one of them. When do you see a GoFundMe? Number one, when somebody dies, and number two, when somebody falls sick. That's when we see them. If you go online, it looks like this. These are not people that didn't work hard. They worked hard, but they became beggars. What happened? What went wrong? How can we fix this? If we are going to fix this, we have to go down to the root causes. What are the major causes of GoFundMe in our community? The number one cause of GoFundMe is the probate court system. What happens to your money the day you die? What happens to the money you have in your checking account, in your saving account on the day you die? If you had asked this to the average person, they will say, of course, my money will go to my family. My money will go to my loved one. It doesn't work like that. From the moment you drop down dead, it goes to court. That court is called probate court. While in court, they will use the money to pay all your estate are your bills. When you're still alive, it's called school loan, car loan, credit card, mortgage. When you die, it's called estate. How about taxes? The average person has not paid, we have not paid taxes yet. We are in the year 2026, August. Nobody's paid taxes yet for August, for 2026. So that means right now you're owing the government for the first 8 months. Suppose today was that day, how is the government going to get paid taxes of the year, for the year? How about the last hospital bill? There's always a hospital bill left. Even if you have health insurance, on the day you passed, health insurance does not pay 100%, it pays 80%. That means you are supposed to pay 20%, but now you're gone. What happens? That's why there's a system in place to make sure everybody pays their bill. However, not all buckets go through that process. Annuities and life insurance are 100% guaranteed they will always stay with your loved ones. But for the other buckets, it will never go to your loved ones after all the bills have been paid, which will be about 2 years later. So they must wait for that time, that length of time. That's why you see GoFundMes. And every time you see a GoFundMe, somebody is paying the price of ignorance. Let me give you an example of the point I'm trying to make. Registered nurse, 6 kids. 17 years she worked as a nurse, happily married. She was invited to a meeting like this, to which she came, she listening, after which she said, can we meet? To which we did. She was thankful for the invitation and that she learned a lot. She said she used to wonder why in her community, every time somebody passed, it was a committee of friends. It now makes sense. She wanted a policy, to which we did, was for 1.5 million. 6 months later from when this policy was issued, she closed work at 11 p.m. at night and she was driving home. On that day, she didn't make it home. She was involved in a car crash that killed her on the spot. It's now been 3 years since she passed away. 3 years. She had over $100,000 in a 401k. Till this day, the husband is still in court. 3 years later. They also had over $10,000 in a joint saving account. Till this day, account is still frozen, no access. 3 years after. I want you to imagine what that means. But thank God she had life insurance. It paid out for $1.6 million. 2 weeks later, 2 weeks, 401k is still in probate for 3 years. And by the time they are done, I'm sure it will only be $1,000 left, because you have to pay the court fees and the lawyers and the judge involved in judging the case, looking into the case. There'll be nothing left. Had it been she didn't have life insurance, would have seen in a committee of friends. Maybe all those 6 kids would have been sent back to Nigeria to be taken care of by grandma. That didn't happen. Instead, something good came from something bad. $1.6 million tax-free paid out. That is the importance of life insurance. Something good came from something bad. She could have never saved $1.6 million. As a matter of fact, all she had saved was $100,000 in the 401k. That's why life insurance is not for everybody. Life insurance is not for everybody. It's only for those who care about their loved ones. Do you know what happened to the children? The kids were not able to go to law school, pharmacy school, medical school. They were also able to pay off the mortgage and pay off the car loan. Something good came from something bad. That is the importance of life insurance. We have a mission. It is to change status quo. Life insurance is the last thing people want to talk about. But it is the first thing people check for when a loved one dies. We want to change that equation. We want to change it. It should be the first. Because I know the average person cares about their family. That's why this year is especially very, very special. Our crusade of No Family Left Behind, full speed. It's on full speed. Last year, 2025, we insured 24,000 families. That's a drop in the sea, but something is better than nothing. In the past 5 years, 80,000 families. If we were doing a fair job, it should be in the millions of families. But something we must appreciate the little gains. How much were these families insured for? 12 billion in 2025, and in the past 5 years, $38 billion. So my job today is to ask you, if do you have life insurance? If you don't, let's help. So that we don't have to remind your family on that day you didn't have any. What else do we do for families? We have a solution for the number one cause of poverty. It is sickness. Being sick is the number one cause of poverty in the United States and Canada. Let me share with you some numbers. Cancer alone, over 1.7 million people are diagnosed every year. This is on the US side, only the US. If you add heart attack and stroke to the numbers, they're staggering. The reason why you're able to afford and maintain your standard of living is because you go to work every single day and you bring home a paycheck. How many days forward could you survive if you were to stop working today and had to live only off of your savings? Would it be 1 month, 2 months, 3 months? Now, what if the reason you couldn't go to work is not because you choose not to go to work, rather it's because you were sick? It was a heart attack, stroke, cancer, kidney failure. Would that make things worse or better? Is a day gonna come when we're gonna fall sick? Do we all eventually fall sick at some point? Is being sick a matter of if or matter of when? Is the day gonna come for which we're gonna fall sick? If the answer is yes, then what do you have that replace your income on the day you fall sick? And we couldn't say God forbid, because we know even the Pope eventually falls sick, even the clergy, the pastors, they eventually fall sick. The apostles eventually fall sick. So we all eventually fall sick at some point. What do you have that replace your income? Because when you're sick, you still have to eat. You still have to pay your mortgage, take care of your family, put gas in your car. What do you have that replace your income? That is the importance of life insurance. If you have life insurance, the right type, the right company, they will give you a portion of the money while you're still alive. Most people hear the word life insurance, they think about death. No. Others will often say, I have benefits at work, referring to disability benefits that will last just 3 months short term and 3 months long term. And even when you're on disability, you only get paid 60%. Would that be enough? And will last for 3 months, then you lose your job. Then what happens after that? That's why we all need life insurance, the right type, with the right company. Let me tell you what I mean by expatiating. Grace is from Ghana. Years ago, we're together. A registered nurse, religious, wife, and a mother. On that day, she had the same information, after which she said, I want a policy. She did a policy on that day. 2 years later, she returns home from work after working in a hospital with abdominal pain. She thinks it's just a bug. Took some medications over the counter, it persisted. Went in for a checkup. Turns out it's not what she thought. It was not gastric. It was colon cancer. She was a woman of faith, Seventh-day Adventist. But thank God she had life insurance. The right time with the right company. A check for $947,000 was given to her. Why? Cancer. Now, I want you to imagine for a second, any nurse, a registered nurse anywhere that is safe, 900,000. So what did she do with the check? She was able to pay off a mortgage and pay off a luxury car. Grateful to be alive. Going through the challenges of chemotherapy. She lost her job in the first 3 months when she fell sick. She was bringing home $70,000 a year. Now imagine that for a second. Flip the coin and imagine, look at yourself in the mirror. Should the same thing happen, would this be the outcome for you? Because we are all eventually fall sick at some point. For her, it was cancer. It could be a stroke. It could be a car accident in which you're paralyzed. It could be kidney failure. It could be any of those, God forbid, illnesses that eventually come around at some point. What happens? This was the outcome for her. Why? Because she had life insurance. That is the importance of life insurance. She instead became a lot richer than she could have ever been in her lifetime. Why? Cancer. Having been not for the check, she would have lost this home. That is what it means to fall sick and become homeless. So my job is to make sure every single person is insured and protected with the right type of life insurance, the one that takes care of you when you fall sick. Because every single time you see a GoFundMe, somebody is paying the price of ignorance. It's one thing to pay the price of ignorance, it's another thing to pay the price of procrastination. After today, it couldn't be ignorance anymore. It cannot be ignorance. It is procrastination or doubting Thomas's. A doctor from Cameroon making over $200,000. The same information shared with her, she saw value, but she wanted to wait. I will do it later. Why? Because I'm building a house in Cameroon. I have a school loan, I have a car loan. I want to work hard to pay my bills. Then when I'm done, then I can get a policy. Everything else was important, not her health. What if we just did something for $10? Something for $30? No, I want to wait. Not now. She was contributing $1,000 into Susu, Jangi, every single month. That means she was contributing $12,000 a year into a social group called Susu. But she couldn't do $10 a month. So what happened 6 months after? She became sick from kidney failure all of a sudden, no history in the family, and had to go on dialysis. She was young. And on the day she fell sick and was diagnosed, she called on that same day to have a policy. Do you see the problem now? It's too late. It's too late. Had it been she had just had something small on that day and then get something more in future, everything would have changed. She wanted to wait. The waiting game is always a losing game. Something small is better. You can get more in future. You're allowed to have multiple policies. So just within 6 months of her being sick, she couldn't afford to pay a mortgage anymore. So her friends came around and they did a GoFundMe. Whatever thing you do last is how you remember. 1,100. Not even enough to pay for a mortgage. Within 6 months, she lost her home, became homeless with 2 kids in New York. Can you imagine if she had had a policy? She saw value, but she wanted to wait. But then immediately she was diagnosed, then she wanted a policy. We see this all the times. A waiting game, nobody ever wins that game. People decline having life insurance because they are healthy and young. That's what she thought on that day. I will do it later. But when you fall sick, insurance companies will decline you because you're sick and old. So the best time to have a policy is when you're young and healthy. Then when you fall sick, it'll be there for you. That's how we can eliminate the GoFundMe from sickness. And as I close, I want to share my own story, COVID. 2020 COVID hit and I had to close on my mortgage. And I was told $100,000 or I lose the home. Do you know what saved me? I made a phone call to my insurance company and I said, I need a life insurance policy. I need money from my policy. $100,000 3 days after was cashed. And that's how I saved my mortgage. Do you know so many people are not aware of this? And you have to wonder why. How come information like this is not taught in school? Rather, here's the reason. These rules, these tax codes are hidden in the internal revenue tax codes and laws. That's why the average person does not know about them. If you love to read it, this is a good one for you to read. And as I close, this is the one everybody knows, group life insurance. Group life insurance is the one you have at work. If you ever hear somebody says, I have insurance at work, this is called group life. But for group life insurance to pay out, you have to die at work. That means if you're driving to work and you die in the parking lot, it's not going to pay out. You have to clock in before you die. And if you think about it, people die in the hospital, they don't die at home. People die in the hospital, they don't die at work. So in the end, people think they have something, but they have nothing. 99% of the time. If you watch TV, this is the one you see on TV. It's called term. Another name for term is death. You have to die. The elites go for whole life. It's about life itself. Universal life is about life itself. And death is just one component of it. Our goal is not to tell you which type. Our goal is to provide comprehensive education about what all these companies offer in the United States and what they offer in Canada. And before I close, when is the best time to protect your children? When they're born. So now it's time for college, they're set. 2 weeks of birth. Best time to do it. How about your spouse? When is the best time to protect your spouse? Yesterday. How about yourself? Today is too late. Let's get it done tonight. Most people end up saying, I will think about it, I'll get back to you, I'll do more research. The government gave us a license, we've done the research already. I'll think about it, then today becomes tomorrow, tomorrow becomes next week becomes next month. Before you know it, it's forgotten. It's called procrastination. Which one should I get first? I want you to imagine this. The average person buys a car first thing, car insurance. Buy a home, first thing, home insurance. But the life that owns both has nothing. Should be the same. The waiting game is a game we always lose. Why? Because if you wait until when you fall sick, it's too late. The older you are, the more disadvantaged you are. One day sooner is better than one day later. Depending on how many speeding tickets you have, you will not be a candidate. So don't pick up one more speeding ticket before you put in your application. Don't go to jail. You have your legal status in America or Canada. I'm going to close with this. The banks are not in the business of making money for you, but for themselves. How do we know that? Did Bank of America ever tell you they were putting your money into life insurance? 19 billion. If they told you, you would skip them. Wells Fargo 17 billion, Chase Bank 10 billion, US Bank 5 billion. You have to ask, when are these banks going to die? Will they ever die? Companies that own life insurance, these are corporations, not human beings. Office Depot, Starbucks, Verizon, CVS, they own life insurance. These are not human beings. When are they going to die? Do you know why these companies own this and why they put their money back in here? 3 major reasons. Number one, bankruptcy protection. How often do you hear companies that file bankruptcy? Remember Bed, Bath, and Beyond? They have now come back as Bed, Bath, and Beyond Homes. The same company has just added one more word. When you file bankruptcy, the money in here is protected. Everything else you can lose, but life insurance is protected. That's why they all do it. Number two, lawsuit protection. In a lawsuit, what are the chances you get sued? Imagine you're a physician. Imagine you own a home care, own a clinic, own a trucking business. What are the chances you get sued and you lose everything? Not the money you put in here, the one here is protected. Even your home is not protected. Your car and all what you have in the bank not protected. But here, it is protected. That's what they do it. And number three, if your CPA is good, the money you put here is tax deductible, growing tax-free, and compounding. You ever heard the saying before? If you want to hide information from the public, put it in a book. We succeed. And as we close, I want to tell you what